Hi everyone, as you guessed it, today we're going to talk about Batman. But before I get into the subject, see, I'm wearing my Batman t-shirt, pretty awesome, huh? But before I get into the subject, I will first remove this ridiculous mask, which is just put on so you would see me coming on live and see the subject I'm going to talk about. Welcome, first of all, to Super Leader Saturdays, another installment of Super Leader Saturdays. As we're headed towards the book launch on the 16th, I'm getting more and more excited with this, but I'm also getting more and more crammed with work and a lot of things to do and a lot of things to implement. So, of course, I appreciate when you guys jump on the lives for the teaching calls. I also, the teaching videos. I also appreciate very much when you guys find it interesting and you share it with your friends. If you haven't done so already, I highly recommend that you join the group that I created for the book and for the book launch and for all these teachings that I'm doing regularly. So the group is very simple. It's Facebook groups, Lead Like a Superhero. So if you haven't done so already, just go there, ask to join the group. I will add you to the group. And today, as I said, I'm going to be talking about The Dark Knight, Batman, because the subject is about discipline. And as you saw on the title today, I quoted Jim Rohn. If you guys don't know Jim Rohn, okay, he passed away a few years ago, but he was probably, in my opinion, he's been one of my best mentors, even though I never met him in person. His teachings are so amazing. Do yourself a favor, go on YouTube, check out Jim Rohn. His videos will change your life. It will change how you consider success, how you consider achieving success, how you consider building a life that you will be proud of. And Jim Rohn was all about hard work. And that quote that I posted today and the subject that I'm using is really a definition of what Jim Rohn was all about. So his quote goes as such, because you only get a part of it in the title. The real quote is, "We must all suffer from one of two pains. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is discipline weighs ounces while regret weighs tons." And if you've lived on this earth for more than 20 years, you probably are very aware that regret does indeed weigh tons. But discipline is not an easy, it's not an easy thing either. And here's the thing about it, what I love about this quote is it really puts things into perspective by telling you straight out. And look, in life you will suffer one of two pains. So right there you get the straight truth. This is what it is. You will suffer one of two pains. Discipline, which is painful, or regret, which is excruciating. So you get to pick what you want. Of course, if you choose discipline, well, there's going to be things you're going to have to do. Of course, putting discipline in your life is not an easy thing, okay? And I'm going to start talking about Batman because I think Batman, if we look at all the superheroes, whether it's DC or Marvel, Batman is obsessed with discipline because his why is so high, which was avenging the death of his parents and making sure that no other people go through what he had to go through. So that's his why. And his why is like through the roof. And he became so obsessed with that idea that he made himself into the perfect crime-fighting machine. But to achieve that, what he had to go through is really, really impressive. And in one comic I read, it was Batman number 0, in October 1994. Here's what it said. The comic was recalling Batman's early years and his early training. And it said this. One of his school principals in the comic says this: "Bruce Wayne has genius level in certain subjects, yet almost no retention in others. It's as if he's focused only on what interests him to the exclusion of everything else." Bruce Wayne, very young, when he made the decision, I think it was around 14 years old, that he made that decision, that he was going to avenge his parents, that he was going to train in order to become, he didn't know yet at the time that he was going to become Batman, but he was going to undergo all the classes that he needed to undergo and to perfect himself. So he made that decision around 14 years old in the comic books. And he was so focused, even at a young age. His principal noticed that insane focus of Bruce Wayne. And I'm reading parts of the book today. By the way, for those who just joined us, if you don't already know, I wrote a book. The book is called Lead Like a Superhero. It's coming out May 16th. I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited you guys joined. And so I'm going to go through some content from the book, because in the book there's a chapter on Batman. And I analyze the Batman leaders, what the Batman leaders in our society look like. Okay, it's based on the superhero. It's based on the way Batman actually leads, the comic character. But then I take those lessons and I look, are there men and women in our society who actually lead that way, who actually have the same kind of persona as Batman? And yes, there are. For every chapter, for every hero I use, there are personas of people who actually lead like these superheroes, who remind us of how they actually approach situations, how they actually deal with people. So thanks, Eric. I appreciate that. He says he liked that concept. That's another thing. Whenever I spoke about that very concept to people, especially guys, their eyes just lit up and they went like, oh my goodness, yeah, you're right. This is really awesome. Because why? Superheroes are great leaders. I mean, yeah, we see them kicking butt and going into action and having all these cool superpowers, and that's really great. That's what we love about them. But what we don't realize we love about them is also their great leadership ability. That's what makes them so attractive to us. That's why they gain such a huge fan base and a huge following. So here's what I wrote in the book. I'm just going to read you a part of it. In this particular issue, we also add it also adds these few enlightening words on Bruce Wayne's training to become Batman. So the particular DC Comics issue says this: upon completing high school, he elected to leech the world of whatever it could offer his specialized needs. Yes, Eric, I do have a chapter on Captain America. I couldn't leave him out of a leadership book. I have a chapter on Captain America. Actually, guys, if you're listening to this live, just go in the join the group. First of all, once you're in the group, I believe I put it in the, I put some downloadable, forgive my French, downloadable chapters in the group that you can download, and the table of contents is actually there, okay? And I think you can also see the table of contents if you go on Amazon and you click on the book, and it's going to show you what's inside the book, so you can see pretty much what the book is about, what each chapter is about. So this is really good stuff. We've got all the greatest leaders in comic books, in my opinion. I don't go the way of Star Wars, but I did go the way of Transformers, because I just could not get myself to forget about Optimus Prime. I mean, I was all about superheroes, DC, Marvel, but I was like, my heart was bleeding if I left Optimus Prime out of that. And so I put a chapter also on Optimus Prime. So he's like the exception in the book. But all the rest is DC and Marvel. You got Iron Man, Captain America. There's even Aquaman there for some of you people who might be like, what? He put Aquaman? And you will see why if you do purchase the book. You will see why I put Aquaman, and it's extremely relevant. Anyway, today we're talking about Batman. So let me just finish about this, what I was reading. So he was logging more air miles than he cares to remember as he audited classes in the great universities of Europe. Remember, Bruce Wayne is super wealthy, so he could go wherever he wanted. Whatever his specialized needs required, he could travel to, get the greatest teachers in each discipline, learn from them, okay? So money was no object, and he had a goal, and he wanted to discipline himself into attaining that goal. So he went into great universities of Europe and the Far East, absorbing much, and his was interesting, but never completing a single course. He studied the disciplines of the body as well, training with enlightened teachers of the martial arts and mastering many of them. Finally, he sought out the world's finest detectives and was surprised by the discrepancies between textbook technique and actual field work. Eric, I'm telling you, Aquaman is a much better leader than we give him credit for. But I'm not talking about Aquaman today. Just PM me and I will give you maybe a little lowdown on that. So Batman really went through all the classes that he put, all the classes that he could see would actually help him get the specialized needs that he needed to grow himself into what he became. So this insane, almost obsessive focus of Bruce Wayne, because remember, at the time he was not Batman yet. He was just Bruce Wayne, whose parents were killed and who had an agenda, who wanted to become the perfect crime-fighting machine. Actually, he didn't dawn on the idea and the suit of Batman until later, when he actually decided to go out on the street. And the first time in Batman Year One, we see that. There's an animated movie that was made about that. He goes out on the street and he doesn't wear the Batman outfit yet because he didn't have the Batman idea yet. But he goes out to test his new skills and see what he can do. And he realized one thing. He said he got pretty badly beat up. It didn't go too well that first time out, okay, when he first went out to fight crime. And he came back and he was very depressed, and he saw that the criminals did not fear him. And he was really upset about that. And he sat on his chair very depressed, and he thought about what he could do to get fear into them. And then a bat came crashing through the window of Wayne Manor. And it was an old bat, and it was injured and everything. But when he saw that bat, it was nighttime, and when he saw that bat crash through the window, boom, a bulb went out in his mind, and he knew that bats, first of all, are very kind of creepy, and then they kind of don't resonate too well with us. Most of us anyway, when you see a bat fly by, you're like, ooh, you kind of freaked out. And he had the idea of dressing up as a giant bat to instill fear, because he told himself, if I can get them afraid of me right before I landed the first punch, I got the advantage. And that's a great way of thinking, because when you think about it, that's what boxers do, right? When two boxers go in a ring, if you can get the advantage through staring the other one down, you just stare at him and you just have this mean face. If you can get the other guy to look down, you just won half the battle right there. So he knew that, and he needed that extra edge, and that's how he thought of becoming the Batman. Okay, and it's so amazing how Batman surpasses, every survey I've seen online about who's your favorite superhero, he surpasses the next best one by by a mile. People just love this guy. They just love the character. They just love his why. They just love where he comes from, and they get so inspired by this discipline of the Dark Knight. He is so incredibly disciplined, and we admire him for it, okay? So this obsessive focus and discipline is what makes Batman so great. And there's Conor McGregor, the UFC fighter. Conor McGregor was once told that he was very talented by a reporter. And he said, I'm not talented, I am obsessed. And that is what the Dark Knight is. That's obsession, okay, is not always a good thing, by the way, because when you become too obsessed, sometimes you can neglect other things. But thank goodness the Dark Knight does not have a wife and kids at home. So by being obsessed, he became the greatest and the most feared superhero. Okay, so that's what makes him stand apart. So another interesting quote. I quoted Jim Rohn in the beginning, but there's another interesting quote from the book. It says, it's David Campbell, the founder of Saks Fifth Avenue. He said, discipline, listen to this, really, really profound. Discipline is remembering what you want. I found that so very true. When you remember what you really want, you will be willing to do whatever it takes to get you there. And that's what the Dark Knight is all about. So here's another part from the book. I think I wrote that. Yeah, I wrote that in the book. If there's one thing we can learn from Batman, is that you can reach for perfection in your training, your knowledge, and your know-how. Discipline and methodical time management will get you very, very far. We can always improve on what we know and how we do things, on who we are. So, what did Batman do to attain his level of excellence in crime fighting? Okay, because he trained his mind to peak human perfection in many, many different disciplines, but he also trained his body to peak human perfection. So that's not something that most of us are willing to do. I mean, when I'm called to give a talk about this subject, I always say to people in the beginning, he says, who would like to be like Batman? And you see all the hands raised up. They all want to be Batman. And then I asked, how many push-ups did you do today? And you know, like Batman does probably like 500 push-ups every day. That's just one part of his training every day. So now, like, most people start laughing at that point because we realize that we want to be Batman, but we're not willing to do what he did to get where he did, right? So what did Batman do? Well, here's the lowdown of just about what he did. So Batman trained himself to peak physical and mental conditioning. Let me repeat that. That's from the book. Let me repeat that, and I took that out. Batman trained himself. Okay? So it was his self-will. It was an inner strength that he went to get inside of him and to motivate himself. Remember, the Dark Knight has no superpowers. And it's actually, on the one hand, it's inspiring, but on the second hand, it's interesting because there was a Justice League a few years back. They did Justice League with Jim Lee, like a revamp of the Justice League. And every hero would meet Batman, Superman, Aquaman, Green Lantern. Every time they met him the first time, first of all, they didn't even think he was real because they heard rumors there was a bat in Gotham City, but they didn't know if it was real. So whenever they'd meet him, say, Batman, you're real? And then the second thing, when they heard that the guy was just a guy in a suit, they were like, what? You have no powers? How can you do what you're doing with no powers? Well, that's the craziness of Bruce Wayne, right? I mean, he's doing that without any powers. So what did he do? Well, he went to all the schools, followed all the courses, underwent all the physical punishment, took all the trips around the world, did all the push-ups, suffered all the sleepless nights, got all the bruises, ate all the right foods, implemented all the schedules and workouts, paid all the experts, ordered all the materials, commissioned the construction of all his gadgets and vehicles, read all the books, sought out all the mentors, worked all the hours, calculated all the probabilities, covered all the bases, and took all the precautions to make himself into the most feared and admired superhero on the planet. His why made him into a completely obsessed individual, as I said before. And in order to achieve greatness, you need some level of obsession. Any great man and woman out there, if you look at history, all the great men and women in history that we find in our history books were obsessed with at least one thing. And what causes us to be obsessed? Well, what happens when you're obsessed basically is, hey, you become super disciplined because you're obsessed. You become disciplined. You do it every day, all the time. You just do that one thing. You do it all the time. Michael Jordan, how did he become the greatest basketball player, arguably, of all time? Well, he was obsessed with it. I mean, that's how you become the best, is by becoming obsessed. Now, like I said, you have to have balance. If you have a family, if you have other responsibilities, you got to be somewhat obsessed. And that's fine too. But if you're going to crush it, if you're going to become the best that you can become, obsession is important, and especially disciplined obsession. You need to do the thing every day. Every day, every day, every day. Like Jim Rohn would say with his voice, he would say that all the time. Every day, every day, every day. And that's how you become great. It's through great discipline. So, I'm going to leave you with an action call today. It's not a long live. I'm going to leave you with this. Choose your pain. You can make this day a marker in your life when you're going to decide the pain you're going to choose. Because whether you choose or not, you will suffer. Whether you make a decision or not, you will suffer. Okay? So, knowing that you're going to suffer, knowing that it's going to be hard, knowing that your life will be tough and that you're going to suffer pain, at least find solace in the reality, the truth that you can choose your suffering, your pain. So, will you suffer the pain of discipline or the pain of regret? I hope that all of my listeners will choose the way of the Dark Knight and that you will suffer the pain of intense discipline, because it's the best way to go and it's what's going to give you the best success and make you become the best version of you. I'm going to finish with one last call. If you guys didn't yet join the group, okay? For those who've just joined us, if you didn't yet join the group, just go on Facebook groups, Lead Like a Superhero. Forgive my French again. So Lead Like a Superhero, and I will add you to the group, and it'll be a pleasure to add you to the group. So I wish you guys an awesome week. God bless you. Okay, so today, make it an important date. Make it a marker date. Say, today I'm going to choose my pain, and I hope that you will choose the pain of discipline, because it will bless you in the end. God bless you all. Have a great week. See you next time.
And they say that a hero can save us. I'm not gonna stand